This is the Kestrel Country Podcast, where we discuss the people, places, and events all around Kestrel Country. Pat, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
That'd be good. Cool. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pat Darrah, right? Correct pronunciation?
Right, yeah. I think so. I mean, some people say Darrah. It's kind of shooter's
what does your
preference.
family say?
We've adopted Darrah, but it's one of those things nobody's really sure for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit first about where you come from then. So
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Blue-collar family. My grandpa was a World War II vet. He started a business in Cleveland right after the war. And, I grew up. I was the oldest of five. I guess I'll kind of keep it in that vein of working out stuff. But I started getting into sports and that kind of stuff at a really young age. I swam, played football. I was on the wrestling team. And I just remember being like a little kid, just being really into I was really little too. I was just like a little guy. So I started seeing some of my dad's books and some other literature out there, like the 70s like bodybuilding stuff.
Okay.
So I started getting really into just wanting to build muscles, get strong, get big. And I just remember looking through these books, no idea what I was doing, but I just started getting obsessed like when I was real young. I was playing sports, but it wasn't until football where I started to really kind of hone in and learn.
You needed to get a little bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Football. So, did you say your dad's books and stuff? Did your dad, was he into fitness and working out?
I think he was just kind of like a lot of guys, just thought maybe he should, but he wasn't really that into it at all. He just kind of had some books laying around.
Yeah, so he wasn't working out in the garage.
No,
doing that stuff.
No, not really at all.
Yeah, I feel like that was. I don't know. Maybe there were a lot of people doing that, but I feel like that's a more recent thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. My dad didn't. I don't know that I knew other guys' dads who did home gyms and stuff like that.
Yeah, we had some
less common.
Right. Yeah, we had some stuff in the basement though. I don't know if my mom put that stuff in there, but we had a bench and some just basic weight stuff. But yeah, he wasn't using it very much.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of.
It's just something that you were interested in.
Well, just seeing these guys. Well, I mean, that whole era of the 70s and 80s of these just Arnold Schwarzenegger, you just see these people and you're just it's just crazy. So it was just I want to try to at least get, if whatever they're doing, I'm going to try to do some of that. So it was just, doing some push-ups, trying to do some bicep curls, that kind of thing.
So then football got you into it. Mm-hmm. You played football. What position do you play?
So I was wide receiver, again, way undersized, but I loved it. I loved the team aspect of it. I really loved the training too, of doing the workouts and just seeing the progress. I was one of those guys that wasn't very good in the beginning, but I never missed workouts. I listened to all the trainers, all the coaches, and I got really good just from that. So it was just instilling this kind of you work hard, you do the right type of stuff, and it's going to pay off.
The work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you seen, random thing, but have you seen the movie Greater?
No.
You should check that movie out. It's about Brandon Burlsworth. There's now the Burlsworth Trophy. He's considered the greatest walk-on in the history of football, basically. Arkansas, tragic story. He ended up getting killed right after he got drafted in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, really cool story. It reminded me of that because he's kind of that what do I do, coach? And they're well, I don't know if you're going to make it, but just show up, be the first one here, the last one to leave. And he's okay. And just, that consistency, and it's a cool story anyway.
And making it to the NFL. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So football in high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, so after high school, I joined the Navy. So, I mean, I didn't really change my training just to get into the Navy. It wasn't just being in football shape and being an athlete was good enough to just go Navy. I was a CB. I was just a kind of a regular job in the Navy, but construction job. And then
so enlisted in the Navy, right? 18, right out of high school.
Yep.
Was that, so you said your grandpa was in World War II. Mm-hmm. Did any other military family connections, or was it just kind of like, man, that's something I want to do?
It kind of came on later. I didn't really have a lot of direction, idea what I wanted to do. I just kind of knew I wanted to move on, but I didn't have like a clear path. Like I wasn't going to go away to college or anything like that. It was like, this is my way to like move on, start my own life, or just get going on something and just get away. So that was kind of the reason why I joined. It wasn't like, cause this is before 9/11 too. So we weren't at war or at peace. I was like, all right, well, I could do.
So what year?
I'll get to that in a second. Okay. So it was, I was like, okay, I could learn construction. I didn't know construction. I didn't grow up doing any of that. I was like, this would be cool. I can like learn a trade on some level. And the recruiter, of course, like talked to
sold it.
He's like, oh yeah, you guys will build each other's houses, and you're gonna. It's not exactly like that, but it was a really cool job. Learned a lot. I was a builder, doing concrete framing, pretty much all things building. But so I joined in March of 2001.
Okay.
So 9/11 happened the day before my first deployment. So I went through boot camp, through basic training. We're getting ready to deploy. I mean, literally all our stuff is on the plane. And it's like, we're going to Spain.
Okay. So that's where you're headed.
Yeah. We're planning to go to Spain. And then I was in the galley eating breakfast that morning. And like, people are kind of like looking at the TV, and we're getting ready to like get on the plane to deploy. And then it was like, it was game on.
Yeah. That's crazy. So you're thinking I'm going to build stuff at some base in Spain.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then how did that change? How'd that change the path then? Did they stop, or did you still go to Spain?
So we still, because all flights were grounded, even any like non important flights were just not happening at that point. So we still deployed to Spain in a few days, but it was like, all right, are we going to go to Afghanistan? Like they weren't really sure in the beginning how they were going to tackle this military.
They didn't even know.
In the beginning, it was just a lot of like special operations, putting them in there. But then, so I did Spain, finished that deployment, and then a few years later, went to Iraq, Afghanistan, did deployments there with the Seabees, which was crazy.
Yeah. So then you're still similar stuff, building spaces, maintenance, doing that kind of work.
Yeah, but like in a war zone, it's a little more like the shifts are much longer. Like what needs to happen is much more important. You're building like hardened facilities for people to eat in and keep safe, and so it was just like a totally different like tempo.
Yeah,
in Spain and some of those deployments, you're like helping out some of the bases, building things that need to happen. You're kind of like a regular construction worker. In Iraq, you're wearing like full gear. You're working, like it's 24-hour shifts. Well, it's 12-hour shifts, but 24 hours going. So it's just like constant. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It was intense.
And do the Seabees, are you working with and for all different branches? Or is it kind of Navy stuff? Because you don't really think of Navy in Afghanistan, right? I mean,
well, it kind of depends on
other than, special forces kind of stuff.
Right. So it kind of depends on like what's going on and like what the mission set is. So when I went to Iraq, it was more, we were helping out bigger bases, like we were like Ramadi and building big galleys and big facilities like that. In Afghanistan, we were attached with like special units, which is pretty cool. We were like their handymen basically.
Yeah.
Putting up shelves and just doing, which was kind of neat. It was kind of like hookup kind of stuff. Like, hey, can you like hang a TV and we'll like take you out to the range? It was that kind of stuff. They'd take like guys skydiving. And so really that's when I got introduced to like the other side of the military, the special operations. Because when we were in Afghanistan, we were working with SEAL Team 6 development group, and we were, it was like just, they were in the middle of Afghanistan, some like little mud hut. I was there with like 3 of those guys. I didn't even know who they were. There was just these like big dudes with these big beards and like all these guns, and they're like just telling me to do like random stuff. They're like, yeah, we're gonna put some like maps up. Can you just put some like plywood here? I'm like, All right.
Sure.
And they're just walking around in like shorts and flip flops and like going out all night doing cool stuff. And I was just like, it just kind of got me thinking about that side of things. So I did that deployment. That was my last deployment as a CB.
So that was your first, like a 4-year stint?
5 years.
5 years as a CB.
Mm-hmm. And so all this, during this time, back to like training kind of stuff, I was still, you know, I didn't have a sport to train for, but I still liked that kind of training. Like like the bodybuilding kind of stuff never really appealed to me. It was like, you know, doing certain body parts on certain days, but I just enjoyed like doing sprints, hill sprints, like training like I was training for a sport. So I kept that going.
You kept that up even while you're doing
it was like I was
Iraq,
like a football player, basically. It just, I knew how to do it. I was familiar with it, and I liked just kind of the way it made me feel. Like I felt like I was like an athlete.
That's been a regular routine habit
the whole
since
time. Yeah.
high school.
Since high school.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So then you did that 5 years, and
I was kind of planning on getting out, to tell you the truth. Like I knew these guys now. I was like, oh, there's just like this other part of the military, which is pretty sweet. I don't, you know, I was like, maybe I'll go SEALs or something. I was like, I don't know if I want to do some of that. I was thinking about it, and then so I had a CB buddy, who was going to this unit that I'd never heard of. It was the special boat teams. And I was like, oh, what's that? Because these units have like CBs attached to them. So he was going to this command.
So so basically everybody has some CBs attached to them?
Everybody wants
to do all that
exactly.
stuff.
Because a CB rate within it, you have builders, you have mechanics, you have, it's like a full construction company. You know, they have like guys who run the heavy equipment. So you could send a whole CB battalion in somewhere and they can do everything.
Yeah, that's cool.
But then you have guys attached onesie twosies to like these different commands. So anyway, he was going to this special boat team. So I'm like, oh, what's that? He's like, oh, they drive these like super fast boats with guns and jump out of planes. And I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. You know, so I started researching it a little bit. This was in 2006. And I was, as soon as I started looking into it, I was like, I think I want to do this. So I was.
Did you grow up? You grew up in Cleveland.
Yeah, so on Lake Erie, on boats.
You grew up on boats and around the water.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just, maybe I'll give this a shot. I was in decent shape just for like doing football training. I was doing like sprints and, you know, training like an athlete. So I felt like I was in decent shape, but not that kind of shape yet. And so I already had told the CBs, I was like, I'm getting out of the Navy. I'm done. Like I was enrolling in college and I was moving on. So while I was on my like terminal leave they have, like where you're still in the military, but you're using up your vacation time. That's when I started delving into this. So I go back into the CB command and I was like, I probably can't do it. You know, like I just heard about this SWCC thing, this special boat team thing. If I could do that, I think I want to try it. And they're like, what? Like, we already processed, you're out and all this. And they're like, well, hold on. And they made a call.
Like, you didn't tell me about this cool thing.
Yeah. But, and I was fully accepting them, you know, expecting them to say like, no, you know, you're already out. You're done. We've signed you out. And he makes a call. I remember I was just sitting in the office, just kind of waiting and just being like, all right, we'll just see what happens. And he's just like, all right, you got to re-enlist for 4 years, but you're back in. It was just like that. And then cool. I was getting ready to go to the selection in like a few months. So then now that I knew this, it was like, all right, now I got to figure out, because the selection is pretty rigorous. You have to take like a PT test with like a run, a swim, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, the whole, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I started shifting my training. I swam when I was a kid, but it wasn't like this kind of swimming. Like you're swimming in camis with fins, and it was just, I had a lot of work to do. So,
yeah, it's pretty intimidating.
Mm-hmm. So I came across this guy, Stu Smith. He makes like a lot of books and training programs for guys going to SEALs and SWCC. So I started following that and got in good shape and
just same thing,
crushed it.
Doing daily routine,
the work. Yeah,
just doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was plenty. It got you in.
Mm-hmm.
So you got in. You said 2006?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, made it through selection, the whole process, crushed it, did really well.
Were you married at this point?
Yeah, so that's another part of this story. I right during this time, I tell the Navy I want to go do this special boat thing. So I'm not. I know I'm getting ready to move somewhere else.
Yeah,
out of where I was at, and I met Jackie during this time when all I'm thinking about is training and going to selection, and we just kind of hit it off and just started talking and chatting, and it started progressing to where we felt like we were.
So it wasn't like you're planning to get married, and then all of a sudden you have to say, "Hey, actually, I'm going to get back in the military."
No. we didn't even know each other.
Yeah. That's funny.
So we had met, we hit it off, and things progressed pretty quickly.
So where do you have? Were you going to San Diego? Were you going
selections in San Diego? Before I left there, I was in Ventura, like Port Hueneme area.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where Jackie's from. Yeah.
Okay. So did the California thing, SWCC, got through all of it. Mm-hmm. A lot of. Is it similar to the SEAL stuff? You got to go.
It's the same command. They have their little version, but I mean it's just inducing.
It's pretty similar.
Inducing pain on the beach. Yeah. Running, swimming, and then out of the surf zone, cold.
Were you already kind of on the older side for some of that then?
Yeah. So I was 24.
Okay.
So,
and a lot of guys are right out of high school.
Right out of boot camp.
Out of boot camp. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which I think helped me, honestly. I mean, because you got to have a little bit of that, some of that life perspective. And honestly, I knew if I did not want to go back to the CBs. I was kind of closing that chapter. So if I didn't make it, I knew I was back.
Oh yeah.
To that.
You can't get out of your 4 years.
Yeah. So there was exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So and the young guys they don't really know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So it's easier for a lot of them, I think, to call it.
Yeah. So then how long did you do that in the Navy? So
this was from 2006 till a couple years ago. I retired in 2020. Yeah. Yeah. So did that for a career, deployed, went all over the place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Enjoyed it. Loved it. Yeah. I went to Virginia. My first go, went to the boat team out there and did a few detachments there. And then from there, I went back to the schoolhouse as an instructor. So the selection I had gone through, I went on the other side of things. And that was really when I started learning how to train and coach other people. Yeah. Because they treat like the SEAL teams and the SWCC teams and all the military, the special forces, they treat them like a professional sports team because they want them to perform at a really high level and they're trying to prevent injuries. So they hire a lot of coaches and trainers. A ton of coaches. And they're not military people. Huh. They're like collegiate, like they're recruiting like Michigan football coach or strength and conditioning coaches. Those are the caliber of people that come in. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So and they call it like you had access to that. Like you were being trained by those guys, right, for years. Yeah, doing it. Mm-hmm. And they run it like they would run like a Division I sports program. They do all the show up at this time. You're doing this. This is what we're doing. Exactly. Are you doing fitness kind of stuff pretty much every day when you're not deployed? Yeah, as part of the job. Yeah, and they run, but again, a lot of the guys they don't force you to do it. Oh, okay. So it's not, but it's available there every day. They're doing workouts, they're doing testing, they're trying to collect a lot of data on guys too to measure all the things they measure and all that. What's interesting though, with all these guys, they have all this schooling and education and training and sports and exercise science, but I found a lot of them don't. They all still have their own kind of version of what they think is what we should do. So there's, it was great. You could pick the minds of a lot of different people and kind of see where they're coming from. But I found a lot of this stuff, like you could prove that a lot of these exercises work in like a study, but practically sometimes it's just some kind of weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like standing on one leg on like a balance ball while you're doing, you know what I mean? Like it in theory and in practice, it translates, but I don't know, guys just kind of want to just work out, Yeah. Just do other stuff. So it was a good learning environment to learn from some of these guys, but I felt like it was good to just kind of pick and pull from different people and then apply it to what I wanted to do. And then also with the students. So that was where I kind of was
you were able to glean a lot of that. And then did you have some autonomy then
Totally.
when you started doing training?
Yeah, totally. So they would they put a lot of trust in us as the instructors, as the guys coming from the teams that kind of know what's out there. And then there's some parameters on what the evolutions need to look like, but we can kind of run things more or less the way we want. So if I was running like, we would call it like a core PT, I could kind of do it how I wanted to do it. Do like a circuit, do like more leg stuff. And then I had those human performance guys to kind of ask questions to if I needed to, but we could kind of come up with how we wanted to come up with. And what I really learned with that is it was neat because it wasn't like a one-on-one thing. Like, this is what you should do. Like, if you just do this, you're gonna be interested. But you had like a big group of like 60 guys that you had to kind of manage and make sure everybody was not just waiting in a line to do that, get their turn.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about things like that,
about organizing
yeah, exactly.
group workouts and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So how long did you do that of that career? How long were you on the training side of things?
So I got there in like 2000. I want to say like 2010. No, 2000. A little later than that, like 2012, and then I did that for 3-4 years.
Okay.
I went back to the team, and then I went back to another training command for my last like Twilight tour.
Okay. So you did some training, went back in, kind of I don't know, what would you call it? Active or on missions
back
or
to
whatever.
the deployable.
Okay.
Back to the. They usually just say like back to the teams.
Yeah.
You're just back to the grind, back to the full deployment cycle, and did another deployment, and then came back to just the command I finished out at was more like a recruiting, and but what was neat is I got to finish helping guys in the Navy that wanted to be SEALs or SWCC.
Oh, that's cool.
So it was neat. So
kind of back to what you came from, what you did. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So these are guys that have had specific goals in mind. Like, it wasn't just like when I was an instructor, like I'm just going to hammer them kind of and make it a good workout and make sure they got.
Yeah. So the first time you were an instructor, you were more just, you were, these were all active
I
guys.
should say that. This was not like
you weren't
workouts. It was workouts, but the intent was to make it hard.
Because that was, you were doing it for basically the new guys, new recruits.
Yeah, well, these
like
are
week kind of idea.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I was in the.
I don't know what the terminology is.
So you have like the phases. So I was in the selection phase.
Okay.
Which means we were mean.
So
it was like intense. Like you always had to, like, put on that, act that way. You're not actually mad at these kids. You kind of want them to succeed and want them to do well and put them in the right position, but you have to make them question whether or not they want to do this. So you have to be intense.
Yeah.
You got to kind of bring it. So the workouts had to be that way.
Was that enjoyable? Like,
oh, yeah.
That sounds funny.
Yeah, when it's not in like a sick way, but it's neat to push
see
people.
Their potential.
They want it so bad. Yeah. And they're trying so hard, and you're trying to bring them past their limits, which was kind of neat to just see that. You know what I mean? And then being a good instructor, you don't want to hurt anybody. You want to take them far, but keep everybody safe. Pick exercises and pick workouts that are like you can find out about these kids in a safe way and take them to their limits too. But you're not. It's dangerous, but you can do it in a way that's not too much.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit of an art. Like how you can use the cold sometimes, or use, what you have available.
So at that point, you're SWCC, but you're not on a boat. Like, you're not out doing your thing. You're doing a completely different job.
Exactly.
So is that common to have that break up in your career?
Yeah, and guys need that. Otherwise, you'll just burn out. You need that. Like, guys come from Dev Group, SEAL Team 6, and they'll go to the schoolhouse. It's just a time to kind of like because you're on a more of a set schedule. Like they know the whole schedule for the whole year of like when classes are coming in, when the classes are going to start. Your busy weeks. You know what I mean. But when you're at the team, things just pop up. You're just like, all right, we got to go on this training trip. We got to go here. We're doing this. It's just, there's no schedule. You're constantly moving, traveling. But when you're at the schoolhouse as an instructor, you're not traveling. You're kind of, your job it's like a normal job.
Yeah.
Which is good for
family
to get a
too.
break.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You guys were having kids during all that time and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was during that time. So I was in my own training. I was doing this and helping people, and I was still doing the sports stuff, but I was at this school. It was like a public speaking instructor kind of course we were going through, and this dude Josh Bridges was there, and he's like a big CrossFit guy, and I never heard of CrossFit at this point, but he was like he was like one of the top guys at this time. This is like 2012, like so it was like his heyday, and so I was talking to him about it for a while, and it kind of introduced me to this. I kind of heard of it. I thought it was just like this fad out there that was just some nonsense of people just frantically working out.
It looks that way sometimes.
Yeah. But, talking to him, I was like, okay, some of this stuff seems kind of cool, like a cool test, something that it might be fun to try out some of these workouts. So I actually went to a CrossFit gym that he recommended, and it was so hard. But it was cool. It was
really?
Yeah, and I was in shape.
You're like, I'm an
instructor. I'm in like top shape. I'm leading these kids on runs and swims and doing all this stuff. And then I go to this gym, this CrossFit gym, and it was kind of humbling. I was like, oh my gosh.
Interesting.
I'm not in great shape. So I was doing that and it was a really good gym, really good coaches, and I was doing all the movements, the clean and jerk, snatches, like everything, all the CrossFit muscle ups, doing all of it. And I was enjoying it, but I was starting to realize the reason I was enjoying it so much was not the fitness aspect of it. And this is kind of earlier days of CrossFit where it was all about competition. And that's how this gym was. It was just like every day was like, all right, like it's competition.
Yeah.
Which was fun. It felt like I was like in a new sport, but I was always dealing with something.
It was more of a sport.
Yeah.
Dealing with something, injury.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh my gosh, like what did I do to my shoulder or my knee? Because you're always pushing yourself to the max, which, looking back, that's just not a good way to train. You know what I mean? It's fun, but you can't push yourself that hard every day. And then at this gym too, they do the prescribed weights in the as a man that feels like you're in pretty good shape, you're like, okay, well, that's probably more than I should do, but I'm doing it. But it doesn't matter. Like if he's doing it, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So you're doing some sketchy stuff, right? You're doing like these crazy, it's like clean and jerks at a weight. You just learned clean and jerk not that long ago, and you're doing this intense weight. So it was getting a little sketchy, but I was enjoying it. You're like, CrossFit works.
Yeah.
It definitely works because you're pushing yourself to as hard as you can possibly put. So the body has to change, has to adjust.
Did that affect anything in terms of how you were doing stuff within your job in the Navy, training?
Yeah, for sure. So that Chelsea workout that I do every week,
yep,
that came from like that time. I did that. I would do that with the students,
and that's
every minute on the minute.
10 pull-ups,
5 pull-ups,
10 push-ups, 15
squats
squats
every minute for 30 minutes. I'd do it with the student. I'd be a workout I would throw in once in a while. So I would pick and choose like some of these body weight exercises, especially that I felt like were good workouts with good like time parameters, and they just kind of worked like that workout. But obviously, like we're not going to do clean and jerk workouts with the students and those kind of things. But there's some creative people that know a lot about working out with CrossFit. There's a lot that I took out of that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So then that was more the first stint. The last thing before you got out was it similar? Well, you said you're taking guys from the Navy, getting them into it.
So during this time when I was an instructor, so now I'm kind of like starting to get a pretty good array of different modalities that I've kind of experimented with, like with the football stuff and working with the human performance guys in the military, and then CrossFit coaches and them. But then, so while I was an instructor, I was thinking, you get a little bored, you're just kind of like, all right, like I'm ready to go back to the team, or what's the next challenge? What can I do? What's the next crazy thing? Not crazy, but like, what's the next mountain?
Yeah.
So I was planning to screen for development group, SEAL Team 6.
Okay.
So that's what I was like, I'm going to go do this. So I was looking again for like training programs, and there's not a lot out there, but it's quite the ordeal. Like physically, you got to get through, the same kind of thing. You're going through a whole nother selection.
So you have to go through it all over again.
It's more of a gentleman's course, but the requirements are really high. Like you're expected to be super legit. You know what I mean? And there's still some time things and graded things, but you gotta some of it's an open book test. Like, you're going to have to swim a half-mile open ocean with fins in a certain 14 minutes. And you're going to have to run a 3-mile run. Like they have these things posted that you got to do. But then once you go, they have it's a lot of physical stuff as well. So I started looking around at different training programs, and like I said, there wasn't much out there, but this guy, Rob Shaw, mountain tactical athlete, he makes these workouts for guys that are preparing for all kinds of stuff, like smoke jumpers to like SWAT teams to like all kinds of stuff. So he had one, I think it was a 12-week course specifically for if you're preparing for this thing.
Yeah, wow.
And it was insane.
Was he there? Were you doing that in person?
No, I just found it online.
You just found it online.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. Yeah, like he had these workouts. He had a mini event every other week. And like the first week was like a 4-hour workout. So you start with like a swim, a run, you do all this stuff, right? And it just keeps getting longer and longer. You're doing like an 8-hour workout by like this 6. Anyway, long, like 2-a-days, like rucking like 6 miles in the morning and then doing like some workout later. It was a lot of volume. It was a ton. It was cool. But that was when I ended up not going. We had another kid. Home life was just starting to get pretty hectic. We had our 4th at this point, and it was just like, I just don't think this is a good idea. Like, I really want to. It'd be quite the adventure.
Yeah.
But I've had some adventures already. Like, do I need to pull the trigger on this, right? It just didn't seem smart. So pump the brakes on that. But it introduced me to this guy in Wyoming, Rob Shaw, who was putting these workouts out. And a lot of the movements I really liked. It was different than the football stuff, and it was different than CrossFit and the human performance, because he was always varying different. It wasn't like as intense as you could go all the time, but it was all these functional movements with sandbags and kettlebells and just like trunk rotation.
Because he's preparing guys for physical jobs,
firefighter,
rather
all
than
that
for like athletic competition or whatever. It's more functional.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I continued following. He had a daily operator workout, like, and programs that he would program. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do the crazy development group program anymore. But I like these kind of workouts. I like the different, like switching it up, doing the different paces, different moves. So I continued following the daily operator workouts, and I just felt great. Like, as physically felt strong everywhere. I was never getting hurt, never having any issues anywhere. And I could do all the requirements of my job really well. Like, I was always top performer, and any hard thing we were doing, I was always right up there. But then playing with the kids and everything, my back was feeling good. All these like things that were starting to like pop up from the rigors of the job, they were still there. Like, I still had, just the wear and tear from the boats and just the physical demands of the job, but it was different, I guess you could say. Like, I just felt like the workouts were helping me with all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that really started changing my approach to my workouts and like what I thought was the right way. So I started. So
you did that for years. Was that while you were back with a team?
Well, I continued to not that. Once I discovered that, I haven't looked back on those kind of workouts.
Yeah, which is similar to what you're doing now.
Exactly what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we should start talking about mission strength.
What I'm doing now. Yeah.
Mission strength. You got your hat on. Yeah. You got the anchor on it. So it's a little bit of ode to the Navy and your history there.
That's right.
But did you ever, during all that time running training, had you ever thought about starting a gym? Is that something you've thought about before or more recent?
Kind of loosely. I mean, a gym has always been just, as you could tell, like a part of my life, a cool thing that I like. And I just like the right kind of gym is a cool thing. There's some gyms out there that just like, for me, just don't have the right kind of vibe, the right kind of feel. It feels a little too much like you're at like a doctor's or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's like people just have to do this, and it's not like a place people want to be, I guess you could say.
Yeah, interesting.
So it was always there. I always have been a gym rat. Always liked the gym. Always liked thinking about training and being with people that are training. So it was always kind of there, but never really serious. But when I got out of the Navy, you kind of floundering a little bit. You're like, I don't know what I want to do,
since high school, I mean, that's what you've done.
Right. Yeah. And you don't really know what you don't know. Like what the Navy was given me, I guess you could say, like the sense of purpose, the feeling like you're doing something important, some of the adventure, whatever, like some of those things that you don't know how you're going to respond once that's gone. Some of the camaraderie. So you think like, oh, I'll just get a job like everyone else. Everyone else is doing jobs. I'll just get a job. And then, you try some things out. You're like, oh, there's just something kind of missing. I feel like this is not what I want to do. So I tried a few different things out just to kind of see like, maybe I'll just go make some money.
And you guys came from straight out of the Navy to Moscow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I was still in the Navy,
the
actually.
Transition thing. Yeah.
Moved the family up here before I got out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like
all of a sudden in a new state, in a
middle of
new
COVID
town.
lockdowns, and
what is going on?
Yeah, I know. It was a good time
crazy.
to make it happen though during the lockdowns, but it was a lot in the beginning for sure.
And during that time, you really weren't thinking about a gym then. You're just thinking about different jobs, different things, different opportunities.
Yeah.
I know you talked about like firefighting. You talked about a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, you know me pretty well now. Like I tend to get a lot of ideas going.
Yeah. But the gym. So you did
Department of Wildlife and
started the garage thing for a little bit.
Yeah. So
then
initially the gym and the garage was just kind of like I missed the camaraderie with the gym. You know what I mean? Like I was just like I like working out with other people.
Did you pretty much always work out with other people?
Yeah, we wouldn't always be doing the same thing, but it was like the gym was kind of like if you had a stressful day or things going on, like the gym would be kind of the place to just kind of relax a little bit, talk to some of the guys, just what I mean? It was just kind of like a place.
You weren't just working out in your garage by yourself.
Right.
That was more just since you moved.
Yeah.
Since you got out of the Navy.
Exactly.
Was when you started.
Right.
Like,
I would work out
at
the team gyms and all that.
So there's always guys around.
And I tried out some gyms around here, and there wasn't a gym that looked, honestly, I wanted that like functional type gym, open space, the racks, that had that kind of, the gym like what we have now, the mission strength gym. So I tried some different ones out, and none of them were really jiving. Like the one gym, I won't mention anybody. They had like a functional space, but there was like classes going on. You get kicked out, or it was just hard. It was hard to have that consistency of like being in that space and all that. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to grab a few guys and start some buddies that I'm meeting, and we'll just work out in my garage, and just that kind of, it honestly kind of helped with that, some of that camaraderie, just having some buddies that work out with and just start going through. And we were just doing some of the mountain tactical stuff, and I'd change some stuff. And I realized there were some guys that hadn't been working out as much. Like they had some things, one had some things to learn, but I realized that some people, and I just feel like, have this idea that working out in the gym is like more than what it is.
Yeah, no, I think I had that. I mean, I'm a great example of it. I hadn't really worked out ever. Like I have the opposite story of you in a lot of ways. It was like I played basketball in high school, but I went to a super small school. Like we didn't have a gym. We didn't have equipment. It's like I never worked out, never lifted, never did anything like that. I was always in decent shape. I ran, I played sports,
Right.
would play soccer or whatever. But yeah, I'd never really done it at all. And so kind of starting from zero, and it was always intimidating. Even it was like, I'd have friends who were working out and, they'd be talking about their deadlift number or whatever. I'm like, I don't even know what a deadlift is. Like that sounds really hard, and yeah, then, being able to have some guys have that kind of space where it was like, oh, it's okay to have no idea what you're doing. You can just start. Somebody to show you like, oh, do it this way, try this, do it, change it a little bit. And it kind of takes that, it doesn't take long to take that stigma away or the fear, at least like the nervousness, apprehension.
Yeah.
I think you just did an Instagram video on that too. It was like, it can be intimidating. You're nervous, but then you get in, it's like,
it's not,
it's just working out. It's not like, it shouldn't be that intimidating.
Yeah. And it was that idea working with you and some other guys. It's just like, I feel like there's more like people out there that this could be helpful to. That are, just haven't learned, good guys, good people. And so that was what started in my garage. I was like, well, we'll just get more guys in here, get more of a group, and we'll do the functional training and build guys up. And then it was going great until
you couldn't do it out of your garage.
Yeah, so I couldn't do that out of the zoning issues, which was okay. And
it kind of pushed you to the next level though, right?
Pushed me to the next level.
Yeah.
And it was good to start out in the garage because then, yeah, I think it would have been harder to make that decision because I already had a little bit of experience now with some people working out in my garage. So I knew at least if I got a new space, it would be I'd have a few people in there.
Sorry, I just got something really quick.
Yeah, sorry.
So you started when did it start? Just the first of this year, really?
The soft open. It was about the first of the year, the official. But December 20th was the official. Yeah, the official like soft opening.
Yeah. So you started, got a space, got it set up the way you wanted. And how was that? Getting it set up.
It was it wasn't so bad. I mean, it was hard. It was hard work, but
Did you have an idea already of what you wanted it to look like?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like from your experience working out for years, doing different gyms. You're like, okay, here's what I want. I want racks.
Exactly. I want enough for and I had an idea of I want enough for 5 pairs of guys to be able to work out adequately. So 10 total. So about 10. So for 5 racks, we have 6. And then plenty of open space. And I got all the sandbags, all the kettlebells, all the dumbbells, all the plates. And then, keeping it in that functional way, you can do a kind of simplified version. We have the rowers and the bikes and those kind of things, but you don't need a ton of stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you can do. Like I said, I had zero experience, so I haven't worked out much. I did some kettlebell online, workout stuff a few years ago. So I had some familiar with kettlebells, but sandbags, that was new for me.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see how functional that stuff is and how much you can do with a sandbag that really, I don't know, in some ways it takes some of the intimidation out of it too.
Yeah.
Dealing with a barbell and can be different.
Yeah. And that's the kind of the thing, right? Is doing a perfect clean, let's say, is pretty technical. It's pretty complicated. The bar path, getting your knees out of the way, getting it close to your hips, all this, it's tough. You need a good coach. You need a lot of time. I mean, you could do cleans for months and still be pretty terrible at them. You know what I mean? But with a sandbag, you're doing the same, opening up your hips, being explosive. You're doing the clean and you're getting the effects of training a clean, the power and the dynamic, without having to learn so much with the barbell. So that's what's good with sandbags. And they're safe. You know what I mean? You're not...
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's soft.
Yeah, and like you said, you've had to manage big groups of guys, safety, all of that. Anything that's been kind of surprising since opening the gym?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the ladies group has been kind of surprising. I mean, I started with the guys only, but the ladies are like, I wasn't really sure how that was going to go. Having a ladies group, I was like, oh, maybe are they going to want to do like sandbags,
similar stuff,
that kind of stuff. But they've really grown and been like just as popular as the 5:30 men's group, which is my most popular one. So they really like the programming. But initially, I was like, maybe we're going to have 2 programs, like one for the ladies, one for the guys. But it's been.
Is it pretty even, the numbers
for the different classes? Yeah. The morning classes are the biggest.
Men's and ladies, and you got mixed. But in terms of overall gym membership, pretty evenly split between.
No, there's some more guys. But so I have the 2. I have the men's only class at 5:30, the co-ed one at 6:30 in the morning. The ladies is at 9, and then I have a 4 p.m. co-ed and a 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. men's only and a 5 p.m. Co-ed.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's still probably, I don't know, maybe like 60-40 split between men and women.
But more early attenders than late.
Yeah.
Bigger classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, it's been going great. Haven't people that have been going have been really appreciative, making, and we haven't only been open for like a couple months now, and just seeing like people are getting really, really strong, which is cool to see, and then losing a bunch of weight, all the benefits.
All those benefits. Yeah, well,
cool.
It's fun to see, like you said, that again, having not been in any of that in the past, it is cool to have that group, right?
Yeah.
Because I've I try to work out, or even I was working out with you and some of the guys in your garage, and then it's like, all right, just try working out. I got some equipment at home and doing it. It's like,
it's hard. Yeah,
it's just hard to get motivated. I know some people might be self-motivated to do that, but I definitely found for myself, it was like, I need that accountability for one thing, just to show up, to know hey, somebody else is going to be here kind of waiting for me at 5:30 in the morning or whatever.
For sure.
But then also just like, man, what do I do? What should I do today? Or even if it's a prescribed workout, it's like, I can probably fudge on my numbers on that one a little bit. Like I'll go light today. Versus you get that group and they're there every day, and you kind of start to hit a rhythm, and
it just brings the
energy. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. That's really a big part of it, is that social aspect of it, for sure. I mean, and it's kind of, especially now where so many people like don't interact with people as much like people used to, like going to the office, you hang out with your friends or whatever. Like now people are like working at home. They don't even interact with people like they used to, you know what I mean? So the gym is kind of that place where it's like, oh, hey, what's up, Joe? I haven't seen you. So people are, have that time to socialize, meet, hang out with their buds, and then like you said, it adds another element of push. For sure.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that much, but especially in Moscow, I feel like we're one of these towns where a lot of remote workers. You get a lot of people who are just working at home and don't have that aspect. You get a lot of people who are sitting in front of a computer all day. Real estate, thankfully, does allow me to get out and move around a bit. I'm not just stuck in front of a computer, and that's one of the things I love about it. But it's not a physically demanding job, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge benefit too. And I think, like you were saying, maybe some of your what you saw from the mountain tactical stuff, I can say firsthand, like that's been my issue too. Like I used to have bad back pain. Like I couldn't even stand and talk to people. Like after church or whatever, my back would just start hurting like crazy.
Right.
Doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden you're doing all that functional stuff, and that capability of, and I think confidence too, of like, all right, I know I can throw this thing in the back of my truck without worrying about hurting myself.
Right.
Because I'm doing a movement like that on the regular anyway. Right. And just huge, tremendous benefit.
Well, and we've talked about it before too. I think in a perfect world, you don't need a gym. Or, well, not in a perfect world, but like where we don't have all the comforts that we have today. That life is just pretty easy. We don't, we work at a desk, or we can go to the grocery store. It's just, you don't have physical requirements on us on a regular basis.
I was about to say, like, unless you're a farmer, but a lot of farmers now, it's like you can just sit in a tractor, you can sit in a piece of equipment.
Right.
There's not, unless you're working like a construction type job, there aren't a lot of things where you're just physically having to do all that stuff all day, right? Or you're not walking long distances or running, or we got our cars, we've got
So I mean, that's really the goal, is to make up the difference there. Like, what would we be doing on a regular basis to keep our bodies where they should be, healthy, strong, capable, and do that on a regular basis? And I just find that it keeps the workouts interesting. And then I've talked about it before, but you have that that gradual progression in all things, where it's not like we're just trying to get, like you mentioned, the deadlift. Like, the goal is not to deadlift. Like, everyone's getting stronger in deadlift, but it's not like a specific deadlifting program. Like, you're getting deadlifting muscles stronger by lifting up a heavy sandbag over and some of the other things, but it's not, it's trying to do all the functional things and make us good at everything.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot more fun too. It's good. And I think you do a great job of the variety and tailoring it. Because the other thing I've told, people who ask about it, it's like, I think one of the things about a gym that can be intimidating, right, is like all these fit people. Like, well, I'm not fit. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to, but tailoring it so it's like somebody can do the same workout and get some of the same benefits. But if their shoulder's bothering them or something's going on, you can tailor it and say, hey, do it this way. And
there's not going to be like,
to go.
Right.
And nobody's judging you. Nobody's like,
right. Yeah. The record isn't going to stop and be like, oh, you can't do this one. And like, everyone looks at you and like you're holding the class back or something. Yeah. It has to have that kind of variety, or where we can cater to different people. I mean, we have some people that are like in their 70s, so that sometimes they're on their own circuit, or, people have some injury or old thing that we're trying to.
People all different age levels, all different fitness levels are benefiting from it for sure.
Yeah.
So how do people get involved in it? What do you?
Well, they can hit me up directly is the best way. You can either call me or go on our website, missionstrengthgym.com, or I'm on Instagram. That was my first step into social media. I know there's other ones out there.
Doing the regular thing.
There's Facebooks out there and some of the other ones, but Instagram is where I'm at most of the time now. But I would say if people are just curious or interested or just want to check it out, we still do the 2-week free trial, which, I do that because the variety, like you said, you might come to a workout and you'd be like, I don't know about that one, but it might have been like one of the days where we're going a little faster than usual or a little slower than usual. But 2 weeks, you can get a pretty good grasp of the whole variety of the different types of workouts. Like, so if you come to a workout and you hated it, maybe just come to the next one. But 2 weeks, I feel like people generally have a good idea what they're getting into.
Yeah.
So I would encourage people.
2 week free trial. Just try it out. See how it goes.
Sure. Yeah. And we don't do no signups or anything like that. Like, if people are hearing this or are kind of aware, you can just come to one of the classes and we'll get you on a waiver and you can just jump right in.
Yeah. Good. Well, I encourage people to do it. And you're over on, for people just jumping in. Yeah. You're on Spotswood. Is it Spotswood?
It's technically, the address is on Jefferson.
Okay. Jefferson.
But it is on
Washington Trust
Spotswood.
Bank.
Yeah.
The Castle Carpet building.
It's the Castle Carpet building.
Yeah. It's also, you get on Instagram and see the pictures, but it's a sweet space. That worked out great,
if I had a vision.
The vibe. Tall ceilings.
The shiplap. Cool.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's fun. And then we're going to be getting into better weather here too.
Yeah,
so
get outside.
Do some outside stuff and incorporate some of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Excited for that.
Good.
Ready for that.
Well, thanks, Pat.
Yeah.
That's been a good conversation.
It's been good.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to do whiskey and cigars or something, but it's too early. It is a
little early, but I don't know. Like donuts, maybe we'd have some donuts and beers.
Yeah.
But
it's all good.
No, I appreciate it. And good luck with Mission Strength.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next week.